Welcome to We the People. Today I'm sitting down with Kaitlyn Pahler and Goss, the Director and Assistant Director of Sexual Assault and Relationship Violence Activists, otherwise known as SARVA. And today we're discussing two very pertinent issues here at the UW, which are consent and campus rape culture. So thank you both for being here with us today. Let's start with campus rape culture. In your own words, can you describe what that term means exactly?
Do you want to start?
I would describe campus rape culture as, it's a combination of a lot of things, really. It's victim blaming, it's slut shaming, it goes into play in a lot of aspects, and it's not only like the more administrative aspects, like for example, like student conduct code. It also goes into like how we interact with other people on campus. For example, like in social gatherings, in classes, etc.
There's some debate over the legitimacy of campus rape culture. For example, Milo Yiannopoulos, who's coming to the UW to speak on January 20th, calls it a myth. Others have written that it's just a blurred view of hookup culture. What do you have to say to that in response?
Definitely, I think that's a false statement. I think campus rape culture definitely exists from our attitudes towards each other as people, towards drinking, towards sex. I think the attitudes that we have towards those things are definitely leading to a culture where rape can happen. And the climate on campus is unique from a lot of other types of places. So we live in kind of a little bubble that has its own problems, and that's what we call campus rape culture.
Right. So speaking of being on campus and being in a college community, SARVA is hosting your Consent Week this January. Can you explain to us why that has been a decision for you?
I think Consent Week is really important because consent is something that I feel like by this point in time we all know like the general basics of consent, like, yes or no, but it really gets into a lot more like nitty-gritty details, like, for example, like what is consent when it comes to drinking, or what is consent when it comes to your significant other. Like, there's a lot of other things that we need to be aware of on campus, and it really factors into a lot of situations, I think, that develop rape culture further.
So you're saying that consent is not as simple as getting a yes or a no?
Absolutely not.
So what is some advice to UW students about getting consent in these tricky situations, especially with alcohol and drugs? I mean, we saw the Stanford rape case with Brock Turner that made that very evident that substance use is a big factor in getting consent. So what words do you have for the UW community on that?
I definitely say just like start having consent with people around you and with people who are maybe knowledgeable about it, and start learning a little bit more about what consent is. Look it up online. Just take the time to really talk about it with your partners and with each other, because the more we are able to kind of keep it out of this like one little box that we all have in our heads but we never really say, the more we can kind of discover what consent will look like for each individual person and in each situation.
And at the UW, based on some research that has been done, out of 651 students, 6% of women and 2% of men anonymously reported being raped in 2014. And with the UW PD campus crime statistics, there were 23 reported rapes and assaults in 2015 and 19 in 2014. What do you think the UW is doing well in addressing these issues, and what do you think that could be improved?
I can speak to that. That's something I'm actually working on right now. The reporting process is very difficult. A lot of people, I would go as far to say that like there's a pretty good chance that those statistics don't actually reflect what's going on here on campus. Mostly because it's very hard, it's difficult to report. A lot of people don't know how to do it. We can speak to that in that like a lot of people that we've spoken to like don't even know where they would start with the process. So reporting is very difficult. You're also asking someone to relive something that's like very traumatic. So I think that again, like what we're doing, starting to have the discussion about the importance of this and knowing that there's places that you can go and people that want to help, I think that is really going to go and make it a lot easier for this to happen, and hopefully we can also work on preventing this from happening as well.
Right. Well, one thing that the UW has faced some controversy for is that it didn't even have a sexual assault nurse examiner at UW Med until March this year.
Yeah.
What is something that you're looking forward to in the future that UW might be implementing, or maybe hasn't implemented yet, that you would like to see on campus?
I would really like to see our Title IX program improve. We're under investigation right now, and hopefully that will bring about a lot of changes regarding how we deal with cases of sexual assault and relationship violence.
Okay.
Definitely. We right now have a really great victims advocate. I know we're in the process of hiring one for UW PD, so really liking to see those victim advocates be really accessible to our students and continue for them to be a resource, because they can provide so much for us. So getting that information out to students is something I'd like to see a little bit more.
And the last question is, what do you think, so we've touched on some controversy that exists around campus rape culture and issues of consent. What do you think are the main obstacles that you guys face as sexual assault and relationship violence activists? Is it part of the culture? Is it something that people actually say? Is it people's actions? What do you think it is?
I think it's the unwillingness to have the conversation. I've countless people in my life and in my friends' lives have experienced sexual violence or sexual assault. So it's just kind of that you just don't want to have that conversation because it can be emotional for you and for your friends. It can be upsetting, and some people just don't think it doesn't pertain to them. So it's kind of that first step of normalizing the conversation about it, and then addressing how can we solve the problem.
I would agree with that. I think a lot of it is battling the stigma, and then additionally it's finding places where you can go and making that accessible to everybody, whereas I think there's a lot of uncertainty over what the next step is if something like that, God forbid, is to happen to you.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today and bringing some illumination to this really important issue. Again, Consent Week is happening what are the dates?
It's going to be January 9th, which is Monday, through the 13th, so Friday. We're going to be having an event every single day, and we'll be tabling out on Monday to promote our events for the week.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and this was Be the People.